Welcome to the North Hills Church podcast, where we take a deeper dive into unique content created just for you. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan. I'm one of the pastors at North Hills. And as always, I'm joined with Carissa.
Howdy.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. We had a great time last week.
So awesome.
We did another podcast with Don Oglesby from Homes of Hope.
It's a fantastic person to get to know.
So if you didn't see that podcast that we dropped last week, I think it's pretty important that they jump back and listen to that one, don't you think?
Yeah. Pause now. Listen to that one. Come back.
Yeah. So what we're talking about in the hold, we're going to take a hold, jump onto that one and come back. What we're talking about is an affordable housing project that we as a church are jumping into, a mixed income housing project on a piece of property across the street from our church that we have owned for quite a while. Last week, we spoke again with Don Oglesby from Homes of Hope. Don is a member at North Hills, and he's kind of that partner organization that we're going to join, Lord willing, in this project. This week, we're going to talk about the same thing, and in a way, even some of the same ideas, but from a different angle. We're joined today by Reverend Alan Shearer.
Wow, I don't get called that very often. Thank you.
I did it with sarcasm, so you can receive it that way. Oh, he just took his headset off. He's out. So Alan is our pastor of Global Connection Missions, and has spent a lot of hours in this. So Chris and I are pretty excited about hanging out with you, Alan.
Me too.
Yeah, you're excited about this project a little bit?
Oh, man. I love it.
Yeah. So let's kind of just jump in.
Yeah. I'm really excited to get to hear more from your perspective. So I know that you brought up this idea with the Affordable Housing Project last year. And what put that idea in your mind? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, thank you. So we have been talking as elders about, really, we've talked a lot about race over the last year and the challenges to the minority community. And then there's a direct connection to the challenges that poor people have in this community. And
can we stop right there just real fast?
Yeah.
When we say poor, I think I always love defining this word a little bit. Mm-hmm. Would you agree that that's more than money?
Yeah, right. So when we think of poverty just in terms of how much do you make.
Yeah.
But it's a very complex and integrated problem that has to do not with just with how much you bring home, but what are your networks? What are your opportunities? What's your upward mobility? Are you connected to like generational wealth? If you have parents, as I do, who were my whole life they owned homes, and my father passed away, he passed on some of that wealth to me. Like all of those things go into what it means to be poor. And then one other really huge aspect, I know this isn't about poverty
I think this
really
is important.
Good.
I've just learned in this topic, and I think Chris and I both realized this even last week when we recorded, there are so many small terms that we're using,
right.
Affordable housing,
right.
Poor, even wealth. When I hear the term wealth, I think of much, as opposed to just like I have wealth because I have a bank account that has some money in it. Well, that is my wealth. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean I'm wealthy or rich. It's resources. I've heard, again, on this idea of just the term poor, powerlessness. Mm-hmm. You lack some power to make some decisions or affect some change.
Yes.
So I think this is important. Some of these things we're saying, this is what we mean when we say affordable housing or poverty or poor.
Well, and so one really super specific example is fatherlessness is a huge component. So 51% of children born in America today are born in homes without a father. And 70% of African American children born today are born in homes without a father. So just that. And we see that practically in one of the education pods that my wife leads in Judson Mill. There's a mom. She has multiple children. Her husband was very violent, and she courageously left him. And she was living in her car like less than a year ago with 4 children. So we can look at wealth like, well, how much does she make? Well, she works really hard. She has 3 jobs. but then the challenges that she faces and the opportunities that she doesn't have and the lack of a stable family that's a safety net, all of this plays in to the reality of people's lives living right all around us.
So from that, I think we can say this is one avenue that God's kind of put into our collective hearts to go, we can't do everything, but we can step in here. Is that some of the beginnings of this?
Right. And I think what everybody knows who's tried to make an impact on people living in these kinds of circumstances is it's super complex. Everybody knows it's more than just, bringing a wheelbarrow full of money. That's not the answer. But everyone, if you just think about it, even for a minute, the most fundamental need we have is a place to live. If you're homeless, that's like a fall from society. And so this whole idea not just providing a box for people to live in, a roof, and that's all wonderful, but setting them on a trajectory to have the tools to be able to build wealth, not only for themselves, but for their families, and then it has a ripple effect as it goes out.
I think it's just so exciting. And we were even talking before the podcast about, I work in real estate, for those who don't know, and I was doing a bit of research for a meeting I have tomorrow. And one of the statistics just in our upstate, and it was focusing only on Greenville, Lawrence, and Pickens counties, is that across the county with the current median income and the current median price point for houses, only 34% of our population would be able to purchase an affordable house. And like we learned last week from Dawn, the math formula that kind of equates into that is essentially your housing costs a third of your income. Mm-hmm. And so being able to provide opportunities, not for handouts or hand-ups or just free places to stay, but housing that can actually fall within people's budgets, so that way they're having opportunities like we're talking about, I think is just such an exciting project to get to be a part of. So how is it that you connect with this specific challenge of affordable housing in this project?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is we started 10 pods, education pods that were specially in places like Judson Mill, Nickeltown, Poe Mill.
Flowing out of the need to help education post-COVID,
yes,
school shutdown, virtual, and all of the complexity that went with that.
Which has been awesome. We've seen these children go from like virtually getting all Fs to mostly getting Bs and As, and we've loved it, but it's brought us into close proximity with the challenges these families face. And we have been up close with, probably 200 families. We've heard their stories. And contrary to what people may think, we have met tons of, especially moms, heroic moms, who are caring for children. The man is often out of the picture, and they're doing everything in their power, but you see them just getting slapped back. Because everything that we don't think about a lot, like transportation and, childcare, everything is a challenge for them. And they do want to succeed, and they are committed. And so that's really viscerally what got me connected. And then also God brought me a report, which is similar to what you just said, that was done, a major study in Greenville County 2 years ago, where they said there's a 12,000 unit shortfall of affordable housing in Greenville. And that was 2 years ago. I mean, that was before this
market's exploded.
Yeah, And so what are you supposed to do if you're working 3 jobs, you're doing your best, there is nowhere in Greenville that you can live? What do you do? And you go to Pickens, you go to Lancaster, what do you do? And then there's no public transportation, so you can't get to a job. There are almost no opportunities for good jobs. So the best solution is if we can be a part of keeping them in our community, near their networks, where they already have good jobs, but give them the tools to build.
So let's kind of transition there. In one way, again, we're coming from the perspective of our church this week rather than the Homes of Hope perspective we talked about last week. So, North Hill's been around 30 years. We're involved in a lot of things. I say this a lot in a lot of different venues. You can think of time, money, anything you want to do in your life, you can boil that down in some ways to a pie. You have so many resources to do so many things. And so in your home, you make choices. We're going to go on a vacation this year, so we're going to use these resources, which means we're not going to do this. So connected with the need you just described of all the things we could do, I think it's fair to kind of speak back to our members who are raising their hands going, then why should we do this? Yeah, and I think it's a fair question.
Right. Why this?
Yeah.
It sounds great. Yes, it's a need, but why us? Why this? Why now?
Yeah.
And the simple answer is that we have a piece of land across the road that you mentioned, 4.5 acres. For years, the man who owned that land hated this church. And I've been told that he said, over my dead body, will I ever I don't care how much you pay me for this land, I'm not doing it. That man passed away, and through a series of circumstances, that land became available to us many years ago. I think more than 8 years ago.
Yeah.
We have thought a lot over the years, year after year after year. Why did God give us this land? We built a mission house on it, which we use, and that's a beautiful part of our ministry. But really, nothing's ever surfaced. We've just kind of waited. We've thought. We've prayed. We've discussed, and then the coalescence of our desire to do more to reach this community. I mean, right here around our church, where we have our programs to Brookline Elementary School, we have many programs. We're already embedded. We're already connected to these families. And as we look out and we say, what does it mean to love our neighbor as we love ourselves? And what has God put in our hands? And what are we good at? And you see those things all coming together with the fact that we have this partner, Homes of Hope, Don Oglesby, who is a master.
It's right here in our church.
Right here in our church. And so Providence has just brought it together to the point that we say, we have this land, we can do this. It is the most significant challenge to our poor neighbors. Why would we not do this?
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that struck me after the last episode that I hadn't even realized and put together was the added, like you just kind of hinted at it, the added blessing and opportunity for us that as these families move into this neighborhood, they will also be zoned for the schools we are already partnering with and working so heavily in. And that's even another opportunity for us to get to partner with these families and be allies with them, is including them in programs like SCORE. And so it's just an extra level on top of that, which I think is really neat.
Exactly.
Yeah, SCORE, good news over here at Brookline. I was just going to say, Alan, I think you did a masterful job of kind of explaining the resource that we had, the resource we have in our church with Dawn and Homes of Hope. But I think it's also great for people to hear that even at the end of that, great evidence about the housing problem, as Dawn said in the previous one, and, listeners, forgive us as we keep referencing that. If you haven't listened to it, take time to do it.
It's powerful.
But, that we can't solve the whole problem. Dawn was very clear. We can't but we can do this. And I just want our listeners, our members of our church to hear that at the end of that, it's faith. Like we're putting ourselves before the Lord going, this is what we think we should do. This seems to make a lot of sense. This seems to match up with the kingdom that you described, that if the kingdom was here on earth, people would have homes and be cared for. And we believe that's what we should do.
Yes.
And it's the beauty of being in a church where you also bring that before your people to have them affirm decisions like that, to say, hey, yeah, we think this is what God would have us do too. Yeah. So lots of evidence for the idea, and brothers and sisters, that we believe this is where God would take us. Do you have any thought on that?
Yeah, I do. So I don't know what homes you guys, well, I actually do know your homes, but I don't know what homes all our viewers grew up in. But one of the things I heard all my life as a young man and then through my life is, the government shouldn't be doing this welfare stuff. The government's horrible at it. The church should be let the church do it. And I thought about that as we started praying about this and thinking about this, and I thought, yeah, but the church doesn't do it. I don't know any church that's doing this. So
this
meaning to try to meet this need of specifically of affordable housing. And what we do often is to criticize the government and talk about how stupid and foolish and wasteful they are, which is probably fair. But you say we can't meet the whole need, but actually, like just the churches in Greenville, if 10 or 15 churches did what we intend to do, what we were praying about doing, we could meet the need. But the beauty of it when the church does it is that we bring something that no government can ever bring. Because yes, we're meeting a need, but we're meeting a need with gospel intentionality. And we're meeting a need with the love of Jesus Christ. And we're taking all the wonderful resources we have in this building, the counseling, the evangelism, the children's ministries, and we're saying we're bringing it into this package, and that's what's going to make the difference. So, yes.
Excuse me for that. Alan, maybe take a moment and describe some of the feedback that you've received on it. Even Krista, if you've heard from anybody over the past couple of weeks. I mean, we've announced this a couple of times in our gatherings. We have, again, the podcast up, a special part of our website. Just for those of you who are listening, jump onto the website. You can go to that section of it about affordable housing. But as you've interacted with people, what have you heard?
Yeah, it's been like an avalanche of, this is awesome. I can't believe we're doing this, along with, it's almost like a disbelief that we would be praying about stepping into something that is so different and forward thinking, along with a lot of people saying, can we come over and help build? And we'll talk more about that in the future. That's a little bit complex. So it's been overwhelming. People have had honest questions like, how will people be screened, and how do we make sure that it doesn't turn into something bad that's right adjacent? All these kinds of questions, and I'm sure Don spoke to that some last week. But wow, overall, I've been shocked. I mean, I'm not surprised that people like it, but just how much enthusiasm there has been for it.
Yeah, and a little bit like we've said before, like nobody does this, and just the opportunity to get to be involved in that. And personally, for myself and several of the conversations with friends that I've had, thankful that we get to be a part of a church that does what they preach and is seeking to hold every one of their assets accountable to the mission that God has given us, and to use every single one of those for kingdom purposes. And I think that's just really beautiful to think that even something like a plot of land that we could have profited on or done so many other things, instead looking at that like, the widow with her small offering in scripture and saying, God, this is what we have. What can we do with that for our community? That's for kingdom purposes. And I just think that's so amazing.
I've had feedback that I appreciated, that is, I would use the term cautionary, like cautionary questions. And again, that's the beauty of being part of a body where somebody is asking a question that I know Alan well, so I can say this, that Alan, in his excitement that this is already done in his brain, his faith is so large, but he doesn't necessarily run to cautionary questions first in his wiring. And then there are those of us like me and others who tend to ask, well, wait. We like, what about this questions that visionaries hear as negative and tearing the thing down. And we're just sitting here going, wait, this is a real question. This is an honest question. We even dealt with some of that in our previous episode, assumptions that are made about what we mean by affordable housing and what we're doing. So I've had some of that, and I think it's great to acknowledge that type of feedback. And then I have found it interesting that, and again, this is anecdotal, everybody. This is just what I've experienced over the past, since it was first announced, about a month and a half now, of, I'm 48, so I can now say younger people. A lot of young people, like I had one particular guy come up to me afterwards and was just like jaw dropped. I mean, we're jumping into something that's visionary mission, and that's a very popular language of, millennial and under generations. So I have found that, again, as the older guy now, super exciting that the young people are going, yeah, let's do something. Let's make a difference is a very popular phrase. So that's some of the feedback I've received.
Yeah. And, There are real questions, and I don't want to be that guy like you just said that runs over it or negates it, because people have asked questions. Like, even we've had neighbors ask questions. Are you putting in Section 8 housing? Is this going to be like some ghetto over here? And and the reality is that the houses that are going to go in are, as I've seen the designs, and you can go on the website and look at some of the sketches, and go on Homes of Hope's website,
homesofhope.org.
Thank you. And the houses will be nicer than really any houses.
They're beautiful.
Within, 2 miles of here.
Yeah, market level housing, as Don described it.
They're beautiful, beautiful, like, hardy board siding, and this is like high quality housing. There's a lot of control over the vetting of who moves in, and even after people move in, there are controls, and so it's going to be a beautiful community.
So I feel like, just real quick, Alan, since we kind of got into this part of the conversation, which is not anywhere near on any of our outlines or notes, briefly, if someone's in tension, healthy tension about the idea, like they have those questions, what would you say to somebody like that in our church right now?
Yeah, well, there are two ways to look at it. One way is, like, almost all of the preconceived kind of images we have in our heads of what affordable housing is like, it's nothing like that.
Good.
And that's because the government did it, and the government doesn't have, like this level that Don expressed last week of intentionality and experience. But the second thing is, to whatever extent there is, if you want to call it risk, I don't see it as risk. I live in a neighborhood far inferior to what this is going to be. But, we've heard Peter Hubbard preach from the pulpit. I was just thinking, I bet I've heard him 200 times in the time I've been here say, we move toward risk. We move toward need. And we all nod our heads. Of course we do. That's what we do. But here's our first opportunity kind of corporately to say, as you say, let's practice what we preach. And so, yeah, we all take a deep breath. We all ask the questions, what are the safeguards? What does it look like? But in the end, we need the poor. And God is calling us to imitate Jesus Christ, who, though he was rich, became poor, so that we through his poverty might be made rich. So in our very, very little way, we're rich because we have a piece of land. And a lot of the feedback was, well, they don't make any more land. And that's true. So we're rich in something, but we don't have a specific purpose for it. And so in a sense, we're divesting ourselves, nothing like Jesus, but we're making ourselves poor so that we can help people who are deserving, who are trying as hard as they can to have the tools to be prosperous.
Yeah, not to the degree of Jesus, but we are mimicking him.
Yes, we're imitating the incarnation in our own little way, and it won't be the last way.
Yeah,
because God is opening more and more opportunities, and the beauty of it is it's not sacrifice, it's life. The more we do it, the more we feel the joy and excitement of not just handing someone a gospel tract and saying, do you want to get saved, which we're going to do, but it's more than that. It's holistic. It's like loving our neighbors.
That's what I was going to say.
As we
would
would love our children,
right.
our mom, our dad, our brothers, our sisters, because that's who they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. So let's kind of switch a little bit here. We're talking to our people moving forward on this project. How do we... I asked Don this question too, so your answer will be interesting to see where you go. How do we pray about it? Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna kind of pigeonhole you there. Don't go general on us there. Like, pray that good things happen. I mean, we can do that. I mean, and that is biblical. 3 John has this really. I pray that all may go well with you. 3 John 2. I mean, that's a real clear model of broad prayer. But maybe as you've chewed on it even more than I, what are things granular? Perhaps maybe 2. Granular things.
That's easy.
Okay, let's start there, and then I might have a follow-up on that.
So the intention is to build 17 homes, of which 12 will be used for our community, for our neighbors, and 5 will be what we're calling intentional neighbors from North Hills. And we'll talk more about that as we go forward. So very simply, God knows the 12 families that we have the greatest potential to be impacted by the gospel. We're not just, this is gospel intentionality. So every single one of those families, Holy Spirit put exactly the right families, because it's not just one family, it's the whole relational network
Of that family,
which could be
Generational change.
Yeah, multi-generational. So that's the first thing. And then the other big thing is the other side of that equation, 5 families who say, I'm going to go in there and I'm not going to stand out with a bullhorn and knock on people's door and give them a tract. I'm just going to be there to love my neighbors.
Love and listen.
That's it. And believe me, it's those people will have more ongoing gospel opportunity than you could ever imagine. So those are the 2 requests.
And I really love the distinction that Don gave last time when we were talking about looking for people who are not going to go in with the mindset of mentoring, like, I've got my life together, come follow me, but people who are wanting to come in as allies and say, what can you teach me? And here's how I can come alongside you and partner with you, and how we can grow together in this journey of life. And I think that's such a crucial perspective to have on how we can create that kind of change, instead of it just being a project, but a partnership.
Yeah. And a great neighborhood, quite frankly. Just
really great location.
Yeah.
Good neighbors.
Like, yeah, a great neighborhood that we might live a quiet, peaceful, godly life in all dignity, in this space. Another question for you, Alan, that relates to our people. And I texted Alan after the service yesterday because someone already approached me about this. And I'm going to kind of give you 2 groups of people, kind of specialized group of people. What I mean by that is, like the gentleman I spoke with yesterday, he's an electrician in our church. He heard about the idea. He came up to me and is like, this is my world. And he has a crew of people. I'll run electric. Like, I can give some time and labor. Let me know. So there's that specialized group of people. I'm sure there are rules about how that works. You might not have all those answers, but maybe speak to that to whoever's listening. And then in general, so how are we involved? We're involved in prayer for 12 families, 5 intentional neighbors. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Wow. Okay, so as far as people physically going and working on this project, there probably won't be a lot of opportunity, because the way Homes of Hope does it, they are a developer and they get a general contractor. General contractors probably don't want like other people, but we can talk more about that. But Homes of Hope does have projects that do have people practically serving. And the beauty of that is they have 12 men who are in a development program who are working on houses and gaining skills that are going to move them to sustainable living. So they do have opportunities with that, and we'll get more information out about that.
So in a sense, the involvement for the specialized group might be with Homes of Hope in some capacity, but that may not mean driving your truck into this neighborhood across the street and pulling wire.
Right.
Okay, great.
As far as everyone, we're already doing it through, like, we want to have as many touch points in this neighborhood as humanly possible. And as we've said, through Brook Glen, we are already interfacing with hundreds of children in this community. And one thing that I'll tease is we're getting ready to launch a tutoring program in Brook Glen Elementary next year. It's going to be awesome. So there are so many ways, and every time that we have a touch point with one of these families that we're sharing love and the gospel of Jesus, that just amplifies the impact of the gospel.
So in a sense, I think this is fair. This is in our, if I can put it this way, our strategy for our neighborhood. This is one prong.
Exactly.
And so when we're talking about getting involved there, you might be one of 5 intentional neighbors. You might divest yourself of resources like Jesus and go into a smaller home to be with those people. You can pray, but you can also listen to announcements, need to know, calls to action with all of these other opportunities, because it seems like we've got multiple prongs that we're focusing on here right around Taylor's that we're trying to do. Is that fair?
That's exactly true. And every family that moves in there, their children will be in Brookline Elementary, and they'll be interfacing with our people in 10 different ways.
Yeah. Good news, tutors, score.
They're hearing the gospel. They're receiving love. Everything we've done over the last year to food programs, bringing bags of food. We have so many ways.
The Thanksgiving food program.
Yes.
I know Greg leads the highway cleanup program
Even
right through
things
here.
like Mosaic and ministering with single moms.
Yeah.
And we're talking to a program that wants to provide camping experiences for kids, and we're doing that through these families at Brookland. So again, you compare this to knocking on a door, here's a tract, do you want to get saved, to hearing the gospel, 20 times over the course of the year in the context of ways that your children are being loved, they're being served, needs are being met. It all says, we're for you. And I think Carissa just captured it. People are not projects. We love them as we would love ourselves, and that's the difference.
Awesome.
So this isn't on our agenda, and I hope I'm allowed to ask this. But so I'm sold. I'm all in. I'm really excited about this. We're praying for it. When do we break ground? What's next? Can we start tomorrow?
Well, as soon as the church, assuming the church decides to affirm this, they'll start moving right away with zoning, with getting all the permitting that's needed. It's possible, if the church affirmed it at our meeting, that we could break ground as soon as this fall, and then they'll go up. So it could happen fast.
That's
Very
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah.
Any kind of final thoughts, Alan, that are in your brain about this project that you want to share before we wrap?
Yeah. I think my final thought is, what if? I've had so many churches contacting me, including some really large churches in the region, and they're very interested in this. They're watching what we're doing. And so again, what if 10 churches together said, we're going to attack this problem together? This would be something that I don't think has ever happened in American history. So this is a chance for the church to be the solution to a very fundamental problem. And then we go on to the next thing and the next thing. And the beauty of it is that the solutions that any secular entity can bring are time-bound. But the solutions that we bring are timeless because they're infused with that ultimate gospel intentionality. So the fact that potentially North Hills could lead a new vision in this, I think it's going to happen. So I'm just so blessed to be part of a church that would even consider something like this, because it is innovative.
I think that question, what if, I'm going to kind of tag that into Alan's thoughts earlier on what to pray for. Pray for the 12 families, pray for 5 intentional neighbors, and pray for the what ifs. Like, if we had 10 church partners jump up in Greenville and say, we're going to find some space, we're going to partner with Homes of Hope and explode it. So add that to your prayer list as well. Carissa, any final thoughts before I wrap?
I'm excited. Let's do it.
That's a great way.
When do we vote?
Chris and I are going out grabbing a shovel.
Yeah.
We're heading over if anyone wants to
Come
meet us over
next
there.
door.
Carissa will have her pink hard hat on and ready to go. So thanks again for taking time to listen to these past 2 podcasts. They've been a little longer than our normal, but we're pretty excited about this affordable housing project. So thanks for joining us today. We're going to be dropping additional updates about this throughout the project as things happen, and hopefully bringing out some more podcasts. We've got some things in the works, so come back here, look for further information about both the housing project and other ideas that come through the podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.